Hello, and you're listening to the Project's TooNami Night podcast. I am your host, Smokey, and who's joining with me today?
Is Booge me?
All right. This is a new podcast for the channel. Um, little explanation. We have come up with something to pace our anime with, and we have called it TooNami Night. And so we don't have to keep up with the constant format that we have established for Loose Butthole reviews on all the animes. I decided to make this podcast so we can review and talk about animes that we want to. That way it's separate from the Relax Talk, and the Relax Talk doesn't have like 4 or 5 episodes back to back to back
Yeah.
just constantly about anime.
Mm, definitely, definitely a good idea.
But today we are talking about GunGrave and Death Note. We have finished these, and if you'll back me up, I say both of these animes are masterpieces and are complete 5 out of 5s or 10 out of 10s, whatever you want to say.
5 5 5 5
Yeah,
across the board.
it's let's start with GunGrave since we finished it first.
Yeah, I think
Alright.
we did talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, but we weren't finished with the anime. It was at our halfway point, which I will have a playlist, and they will be available in the playlist considered part of the TooNami Night lineup.
Mm.
If you want to go back and see the forerunners of this podcast.
But yeah, Gungrave. I mean, it ended perfectly.
Yes, it did. Well, let's talk about it let's talk about the whole series like we haven't talked about it. Let's do that.
Okay.
So, if you don't know, Gungrave starts kind of like wonky, doesn't it?
I mean, it starts out kind of like this is definitely just seems like a good maybe run of the mill anime. It's like okay, we've got fucking zombie or like demon looking things, the Orgamen. They didn't exactly go fully into them yet. You're kind of just taken into that without context. And we see Brandon like in this like cool like Frankenstein state, already. Uh, no context either, and then it just kind of goes into a flashback, and it's just kind of it turns into I don't know if anyone's ever seen what is it a shit what's that fucking it's a gangster movie, but it starts like with like these kids, and it's like old school like kid gangs in New York, and they kind of rise up into mafiosos.
Yeah, it's
uh Once
it
Upon a Time in New York. That's it.
Martin Scorsese films would be akin to this.
Yeah, which Once Upon a Time in New York is someone else, but it's very much kind of like a Martin Scorsese. It's even got De Niro, and I think it's got uh, what's his name, James Woods.
Yeah, cool, nice. But yeah,
But
so
it reminded me of that, like how it starts is very much like I could tell it's a little bit. It might even be a callback to like Once Upon a Time in New York.
yeah, it might be. I would have no clue. I I want to point out the uniqueness of this anime. This anime is holy. I haven't watched a single anime that has this setup.
Mm.
Usually
Yeah.
animes go back and forth. They don't start you kinda at the beginning and then go back and show you the backstory of how we got to that point and never flash forward ever again. Usually it's back and forth, it's very jarring, and it's to like introduce characters and stuff. But no, they decided to just stick with it.
Because I think yeah, because I don't think they go back to even to the point that we started from the first part until it's episode 20.
Yeah. And until it's time to get back to it, they
And because the sci-fi stuff like gets done pretty quick. That's really like the only like small nitpick is that some of those last fights could have been longer and they could have showed a little bit more. I get that it's hard to animate that. You know, sometimes that's why you do get blue balled in a lot of animes just because like they don't want to like make something look stupid too, and it takes a lot of work to make a fight like flow perfectly.
yeah, for sure. I did have a problem with the length of the fights, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a problem with how they handled the fights that we did get.
Mm-hmm.
It was very well done and executed very well. They
And
just
I don't
didn't.
know if there's any parallels to the video games, but you could see how like each fight you would see that play out in a video game.
Yeah, for sure. Especially Bob and Brandon Lee Ballabird Lee.
Oh, yeah, Battle Bird, yeah.
They are
Like going through the
definitely,
subway. That I feel like there's something like that even in Resident Evil.
yeah, for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like how one of the levels ended in the video game was you fighting him like that.
Hmm. But there's definitely one altercation that really stuck out, and I don't. It'd be interesting. It's why I'm interested in just to kind of. I might even have to like look up some gameplay just to see like how does the games handle because once we get to Harry, like I wonder how that'd play out in a game. Like, well, you know,
Oh yeah,
or if he's even
Harry.
in them.
They completely basically like just dropped the sci-fi stuff completely because all the sci-fi stuff's completely destroyed basically,
Yeah,
and we go back to it just being like a somber mafioso ending.
yeah,
And of course, it ends with both Harry and Brandon dying. And I know Harry was a douchebag and everything, but I still had a connection to him, if that makes sense.
yeah, and because Brandon, that was the whole thing that Brandon couldn't bring himself to kill Harry, and then he started protecting Harry. And when and this is definitely big spoiler territory already, but yeah, after it gets to the point when they're all just so fucking shot up, like after trying to save each other, yeah, them killing each other is out of actually mercy.
Yeah, they're doing it because they care so much about each other. They don't want each other to suffer anymore.
Mm,
And
and
we should say
mhm.
spoilers, by the way. And you should, before you keep listening to this podcast, go watch this anime. This one needs some justice.
Yes.
It's I no one
Mm.
talks about it. Literally, no one talks about it.
Yeah, that's the big thing too, because I, I I've always just kind of heard this. I mean, I've heard about this like now and then, but it's definitely really obscure. Like I've never really heard someone like really like give a praise to this, or I don't see it really on like anime lists.
And it's a shame too because it's definitely a decent way to adapt a video game because I haven't played a single one of the video games and this stands alone pretty well. I can't say that about Devil May Cry, but this
Mm,
one it knocked it out of the park.
yeah, it it feels like I mean I love the just like the town that they're in. It's like almost feels like it's like Sicily. You know, it's they really capture that type of like kind of hill community, like in run by gangsters. Because I mean, it feels like everyone has like white names. You know,
Yeah, for sure. No,
so
no,
I don't know
and
if this is like a pseudo Sicily or some shit because I couldn't tell if it was America or not because there's not a lot of areas that look like that in America.
I
You
think
know,
it was supposed to be a fusion
because it was definitely a made up city.
because the cars were more American
Yeah.
than European. So I think the setting was supposed to be like a weird fusion of America and Italy. which
Mm,
they did it very well.
yeah.
Because, like you said, it gave it a distinctive look to it. There's no place, I want to say, in the real world, to be honest, that looks like many of these places.
Yeah. I've only really seen that like places like that in Europe.
Yeah, in the places that are similar, they definitely don't look exactly the same. There's a twist to this city.
Though the houses look very Italian,
Yeah,
like
that's
like
that's what I'm saying.
old school village Italian.
Like the houses and everything, but the everything else around it is very modern and Americanized.
Mm,
So it's a blend of it's a weird amalgamation of the two that they do really well that
yeah.
lets it stand out.
Hmm.
Ah, but are we going to talk about how there might be a version of Spike in this?
I mean, he's got the hairstyle, but I mean, it's like baby eyed, baby eyed Spike.
uh, I think it's fitting for the character, even though that character barely got any screen time. That I actually felt that death because you could feel the bond between
Hmm.
all five of the characters.
Yeah.
They just did Gungrave extremely well.
Hmm. Great soundtrack too.
Yes, even though the I was kind of iffy on the intro, you kind of pointed out that it sounded like elevator music a little bit,
Oh yeah.
but it
Then
grew
it
on
kind of,
me.
yeah, it grew, and it started because I think honestly, the the audio is kind of, I think the audio of this like is kind of fucky on, uh, at least on my TV. I
Yeah,
don't know if
but
it's Hulu or not
it was
because I
probably Hulu
listening to it
because the
on Spotify,
quality.
it's like
Let's
it sounds
yeah,
a lot better.
you got to find even though it's probably going to be taken. I think it's taken off by now. But if you're gonna watch this, try to find this on DVD or something, because streaming quality does not seem to be the best.
No, we just, and it's just a big Funimation watermark.
Yeah, and that was super jarring, and that could be because we were watching it on Hulu.
Yeah,
Funimation, it might stream better on Funimation, but from what you tell me, Funimation doesn't run that well. So
yeah. I mean, I definitely wouldn't put my money on it.
So definitely like try to buy this on DVD or something, and you definitely need to because it needs the support, even though it's super old. I think this came out in 2003 or 2004.
Yeah, like honestly, I feel like you could only probably buy this secondhand, like the series.
Oh, I know I have it on DVD, and I'm glad I do.
Oh, nice. You got the full thing?
Yes, full thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, uh, and
I definitely would love to. That would be something if I saw that, like the full collection of that. I'd definitely buy it. No
and
snap.
I want to mention this. There was a time where I didn't have cable, and I was living with my parents,
Hmm.
and we kind of like ran out of things to watch. So I kind of suggested this randomly, and
Mm.
my mother, of all people, actually was able to get into this anime. She didn't care for the sci fi stuff, but she
Mm.
just loved it because of the mafioso story. And
Ah,
mm,
yes, it's the backbone of this, and even though that it diverges into sci-fi, it stays true to like the mafioso type of feel.
yeah, even the battles that go sci-fi are still heavily cemented with what they call in Gungrave the Code of Iron, and
Yeah,
that's something that they never break away from. Really, that's
it's all
something they
about the family.
and you can't betray the Millennium.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, eventually it becomes you can't betray Harry. But unfortunately, Harry doesn't tell anybody this, so
Hmm.
everybody starts betraying him.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, Brandon didn't even really betray him. He knew all along, and when it came down to it, in the elevator, the symbology of Harry being in the dark and Brandon being in the light, not only
Mhm.
was like foreshadowing like Harry's lost and he's not coming back, and Brandon is a foregone angel that's about to die.
Mhm.
Um,
So he sort of, it seemed like he sort of expected that was probably going to happen because he probably knew that he wasn't going to be able to pull the trigger on Harry.
yeah, something tells me that, but the whole symbology of that whole scene just
Yeah,
I
it's great. They even just them foreshadowing it too. That
like
whole episode was great. Just the feel of that whole episode was just really somber.
the tension, they nailed the tension well,
Mhm.
but you just can see the dynamics of the relationship.
But yeah, this series is definitely up there. It's definitely up there in my favorites. It's up there with the it's up there with the Batman animated series. It's up there with the Cowboy Bebops.
Oh yeah, for sure. It has garnered huge it's just great.
Which funny how Cowboy Bebop also ends with the antagonist and protagonist dying.
Yes, and
Speaking of that too,
yes, Death Note.
spoilers.
We finished Death Note.
Yeah, you know what? Just if you see the if we probably should have specified if like the series is that you see in the title or description, they're gonna get spoiled.
Yeah, they're gonna get spoiled. They're for sure. We'll from now on we'll open up with a spoiler warning.
This is the danger episode. Well, we could put that in the episode name. This is the danger episode.
uh,
The most dangerous episode of the TooNami podcast.
the TooNami Night podcast.
TooNami Night podcast. And if we can't use that either, then Toon Umami.
Yes, we have a backup.
We got the backups. We know how shit works, man. We know how people are.
But yes, the next series we are gonna talk about is Death Note.
Death Note.
Now I'm gonna say this now: the people that I if you're listening to this, I know for a fact you've already watched Death Note, and you're coming here so you can get validation for your opinion of how it's an absolute masterpiece and it might be one of the best anime of all time in my opinion.
It's definitely up there too. It's five out of five.
Yes, this is a golden boy. This ah it's hard to explain. I If you haven't caught on, this is my number one anime, and it's solely because just the sheer symbology in the scenes that they use. This the whole fact that it's this this is how you do a fucking Christ allegory, dude. This is the perfect way because this is a Judas story. If you don't know, there is a scene in episode 25 titled Silence, which there's a good reason why most of the episode's silent. It's very quiet, and there's even an intentional part where it's raining and you can barely hear the characters talking over the rain, and they did that intentionally,
Mhm.
and it's all to coalesce and foreshadow this one moment that's about to happen. And if you know the story, they go in and Light is soaking wet, and fucking L goes down and he starts washing Light's feet.
which is really weird, but it feels like, I mean, it made sense for the character of L, just of like trying to his weird ways of psyching out light.
Yes, and just the whole just that scene, just that one scene in general, that's when I fell in love. Like, something about that scene just calls to me. It's like, holy shit. They're able to take something and make a huge spin off of it that's like fucking amazing, and you don't have to really take this serious.
Mhm. It definitely, I mean, if you know the story, then you know kind of what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're watching the anime, they basically tell you right straight up, humans that use the Death Note, they misfortune, bad luck, and they suffer for pretty much all eternity.
Hmm. And then we find out too that also, unbeknownst to Light, that humans who are given the note, the Death Note, right? They aren't they cursed to like have their name written into the Shinigami that dropped it?
Yes, the Shinigami, there's a code, that there's a rule that when you make the pact with a Shinigami to use their Death Note, they have to write they have to write your name in their Death Note, and
Eventually.
that is and it, to my theory is, I this is just my theory because I don't think it's ever addressed, but I think it's 100% up to the Shinigami when they do that.
And but it's definitely implied that Ryuk definitely already decided that at a long time ago, and he just was just seeing how long this was going to be entertaining.
Yeah, he definitely, because he said because he says it like, I'm not hanging around watching you, because Light was supposed to, if you don't know, Light is like 32, maybe he might be 28. I can't remember
Well, at the start
exactly.
of the show, he's 18.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like 10 to 14 years pass.
Yeah.
I can't precisely remember, but he he was gonna die at like 72, so he had at least 40 years to go.
Hmm.
So, and Ryuk was like, I'm not waiting around in prison with you all that long. It's gonna be super boring. You don't have a death note or anything, so
Hmm.
because he there's one point, there's one fucking point he has three, and then he ends up with none of them in the end. It's like, holy
Yeah.
shit. Like, if I'm not mistaken, one gets returned to the Shinigami realm, one gets put into the custody of the Japanese police, and the other gets stolen from the United States government.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's
yeah, I
not even
lost
the
your shit.
United States government. This is the problem with the United States government, especially our Secret Service and our intelligence agency. Is they keep acting even though the United States decided to not support them anymore. They keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't stop.
So really, it's Nier that has the Death Note now. I guess we can assume.
Yeah, I don't. I think Ryuk's gonna take them all back. To be honest, I don't. I think the Death Notes being in the human world's done,
Hmm.
or they might just destroy them.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you really gotta watch this series.
Definitely, that's definitely a must watch.
Unfortunately, we haven't gone on long enough. It's only been 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah, we're good. Just do I'm throwing me off. What else?
Um, it's hard to say because this is another series that I would prefer people to go and watch.
Mm,
Um, since this is the first episode of TooNami Night, how about we get into what we look for a particular anime?
What we look for in?
Yeah, like what we get into, what we consider to be decent examples of great anime to watch and stuff like that. Just
Yeah, yeah.
loosen it up a bit.
hmm I mean, I already mentioned, which is funny how this is three animes where it has sort of a similar tragedies, definitely in different ways, in very unique ways. You know.
Yes, but they all end with the main protagonist and main antagonist dying.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I feel like soundtrack is definitely one big huge thing. I mean, just alone having a good intro is definitely the first step to something too, because it's. I mean, Death Note is definitely not an exception of that. I mean, the soundtrack of Death Note's fucking great as shit too.
Oh man,
The two intros
Death
and the
Note.
outros.
Yes, they're great, and not just that, but the orchestra and the operatic
Yeah.
music that they use is phenomenal as well.
Mm. And they don't like overuse it because there's definitely like having operatic things in anime for like dramatic scenes is definitely not like a unique thing, but it's all about the how you use it. I mean, it doesn't mean it's like bad either. It's like that'd be like saying like having uh like an orchestra in any movie is like kind of played out. You know, it's just how you do it. You know,
Yeah,
so
definitely. I understand what you're
so
talking about.
that's one little ingredient to the sauce. Strong characters. Just like sometimes you and I think strong characters is even before good plot. I feel like having a good plot and a strong, solid plot is definitely an important thing, but I feel like it's the third thing still
Um,
because
I
I feel like at least if you have like there's sometimes like there's I could think of shows like where it has like the plot just kind of gets contrived or it
I
just
was
kind
about to
of
say
loses me
I think the plot's the last thing an anime should worry about.
mm,
They
yeah.
definitely soundtracked is one, characters is another, and the next thing is their setting. They
Mm,
need to get their setting down, and what I mean by setting, I don't just mean it's placed in that. You need to have the rules of that setting established before you even try to make a plot, because not an anime isn't just a TV show set in modern day. It's unique. It's sometimes set in a futuristic steampunk world. Sometimes it's cyberistic samurai, feudal Japan.
mm,
You know, and you have to have this established, and you have to know what the rules are beforehand so the plot can center around those rules instead of you making up rules to benefit the plot when the plot needs so.
mm,
Because I think that was the one problem with Death Note that you might have. They did when they ran out of things to make the show interesting, just throw in something completely random and try to explain it in a decent way, but you pointed out the most near and mellow is the most jarring of it all.
yeah. And it feels the most uh anime.
Yeah, see,
You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
I think if they didn't even have to establish near and mellow, if they just established the whammy house as part of the setting and just maybe showed a few scenes of the whammy house and maybe
And
Elle interacting with some of the kids, it would have
and
been better.
Nier grew on me. Nier definitely grew on me, but I still feel like Mello was kind of a weak one.
I think they had I think Mello was supposed to inherit Kira, but they decided not to go with that, and they wrote him out of the story because you pointed out he disappears for a while.
Yeah, like there'd only be like sometimes they just like show him listening in and not doing anything for a while until he just like show up and fuck some shit up and be edgy.
Yeah, and that was at the that was at the very end when he had to kidnap Tataka.
hmm And it just and I feel like and I don't know, it just felt like his he just felt the most kind of like you like almost like fan charactery like edgy type it would because like even you could say like Light gets edgy but he gets naturally edgy and just gets like it's just I wouldn't even say edgy just like he naturally just like devolves into like his fucking like into like a sociopathic narcissism
Yeah,
like god complex, you know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get.
Which I love, and I wish they explored just a little. And it's a nitpick. I think this series is definitely perfect, but sometimes I wish they explored a little bit just the fact that when he forgets that he had all his experience with the Death Note, he becomes almost a different person.
Yeah, yeah. I actually 100% agree with you on that. I'm disappointed that they should have had a moment where it was Light versus Light,
Yeah, and
Kira versus
even if
L,
the
but
evil
them being
light,
the same.
even if the evil light won, and then it kind of went back and went into it. Yeah, it felt like
Yeah,
because
you
I feel
didn't.
like that's something they totally could have explored.
And I hate that they they gave Light a false victory. They had him to where it looked like he won, but in fact, because L had a contingency plan backed up, which isn't against his character. He's a super genius. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
surprised he had a backup plan just in
Mm-hmm.
case, even if he dies during this case. But they make Light believe he won until in and Near and Mello come back into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So for like 4 years, Light just goes on thinking he's like has no competition.
And I'm glad that the time jump helped too because when we first see Mello and Near, they're like 15, so I was like worried like you're gonna have like weird kid detectives like
Yeah,
you know like like I was suspending some of my disbelief for even like Light working on the case and at least it was like that was almost unbelievable and he was like going into college.
yeah.
He was a
It,
senior at the
they
start of this.
they did mention that Light helped with cases before that
Yeah,
he was kind of like a teenage detective type deal. And
yeah, which and I could let that slide once, but then it's like you start having a bunch of kid detectives, and I'm just like, this is not how the
now we're
world
not
works.
saying now we can't go around saying that there aren't kid detectives. I'm just no, there aren't probably any that solved any murders or anything, but there are kid detectives out there that are interested in this stuff, but it wouldn't be at this frequency.
No, yeah, like it was just like, and it's like even if it's like I guess this is possible, but it's like this is just happening because, and that's why I'm glad that it kind of it didn't go into that. It was almost like what I always say, like why it's a trope of like animes always like they have to be in some type of school or and they all have to be school age. It's because it's like this targeted to school people, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was none of that. You know, that's why I especially got like super worried at that point. I'm like, no, because it is a really strong and it was strong going through that too. And that was just I thought it was about to just take a weird turn, you know.
But it didn't. It Now you were hoping that there was a point where like just a bunch of Shinigami would come around and start fucking shit up.
Oh yeah, I mean I wouldn't mind to see some more just popping up, but I mean I think it was I think they did it perfect. They didn't need that.
Are you glad for the direction that they went with?
Yeah, I definitely am.
Now, how did it feel not knowing what was gonna happen?
It was like I definitely knew that Light was gonna die. It's just that I didn't know how. You know, that's
Gotcha.
what I couldn't get was like how is this gonna go down? I definitely was surprised to see L die that early. I
Yeah,
knew
they.
I felt like I knew he was gonna probably die, maybe.
Oh, you
Actually, I
thought.
feel like his death's actually surprised me more than I mean, of course they foreshadowed it in the episode, then I knew exactly what was going to happen. But but before that, it was I mean, I knew Elle was going to die, but I didn't know that Elle was going to die especially that quick.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think they did that on purpose. I think it's a nice jarring.
Oh, the when I saw him do the signal, I remember what I thought before they showed Mel and Near. I thought he was gonna like do like a almost copy his like AI or something into the computer, and then he'd be fighting like a cyber L.
Oh, that would be cool. Oh, let's let's mention let's since we're talking about Death Note, let's talk about your idea that you had.
My idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, if L won, if like without dying,
What?
if he beat
No,
Light and then
we
got a hold
need
of the Death Note.
no, we need a what if Death Note,
Yeah,
Death Note
yeah.
what if.
Death Note what ifs. Like there's a bunch of them you could do. L
That,
with the Death Note when Ryuk. I mean, feel like you get some good gags out of that. L's already like eating a bunch of fucking sweets. Ryuk
yes.
likes the sweetness of apples, like, and we even see that the other Shinigami was like eating that chocolate. They
Yeah,
definitely all like sweets.
yeah, they definitely have a thing for sweets. That
I
yeah,
mean,
that
the only Shinigami we didn't see that with with Ren, but Ren was super reserved for Shinigami.
yeah, she had a unique personality to her, and that's because she was a Shinigami that had respect for her fellow Shinigami, and she didn't have respect for humans, but she loved a human, so she didn't mistreat humans like the other Shinigamis did.
Hmm. Still kind of went by the apathetic code, but was doing everything, yeah, for Misa.
Yeah, which of course is ultimately her downfall in the end.
Hmm. Definitely could do a what if the fucking U.S. got a hold of the goddamn Death Note.
Yeah, yeah. What if the U.S. got a hold of Death Note? And I
Hmm.
actually want to say, what if Rim did decide to just kill Light? What would happen then?
Oh yeah.
That would be very interesting.
Hmm. Or
Cause
if I mean, and I definitely would be definitely. I mean, you could do the what if of if if light if light actually like started trying to find who Kira was, and then
yeah,
I mean, yeah, like I've forgotten if he never got his memory back, and then like did actually crack down to try to find Kira, and then discovered it was him. But like in his the state of mind where he has all the experiences, he respects all their experiences and cares for more people because he doesn't have that weird mission.
yeah.
Be
It's
tough guy.
weird. It's like the Death Note kind of like just completely took his sense of empathy away.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have a theory that the Death Note just like brings the worst out in you. Like
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you get a hold of it, it's like at this. They even show when you first touch it like a pulse
Mm-hmm.
come off the Death Note, and I feel. that is symbolizing just the misfortune that's beginning.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Because everybody that holds the Death Note becomes vaguely vaguely homicidal.
Yeah.
Like even his dad, like even though he couldn't do it in the end, he got really close to actually using it.
Uh, I mean, though his dad already before he ever even touched the Death Note, he already suggested like he even said that if he found out that it was Light, he'd kill Light, kill himself.
Yeah,
I
but
feel like that's
I
just
feel
like
that's more a father finding out his that's a sensible reaction for his for finding out your son's been killing people en masse with no remorse whatsoever.
yeah, especially cops at that point.
Yeah, you got to think this is a cop,
Yeah.
so you got to he's got that cop mentality. He has
Mhm.
a good cop mentality.
Definitely. I mean, he's Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah,
Let's be
he
real.
for sure. Um,
He's a good Commissioner Gordon.
and they like taking a lot of jabs at America in this.
Yeah, well, yeah, in one particular way that wasn't very tasteful. I could say very not tasteful. I mean, it only happens
Yeah.
once. We get we get big lipped anime offensive
Yes.
stereotypical black
We get
portrayal.
a Mr. Popo moment.
Yep, Mr.
But
Provo moment.
it's extremely brief. It's extremely brief. It's in the
It was to
background.
show that they were in LA.
Yeah, it was a show that they were playing in LA.
Mm. And yeah, it's like it's a definitely I mean, it's obviously it didn't stop this for me from being a 5 out of 5, but it's just definitely like also kind of like makes you grit your teeth and it's like this is the first black person we've seen in the
Yeah,
show.
in the whole series. But it's not like it's not just. I mean, we are in Japan, so
Mm,
I don't expect to be seeing a bunch of black people around.
yeah.
And
Though
they like mention.
they do have a bunch of FBI agents, and I mean this is set in modern day, and I mean there's I mean
Yeah, but
it's
we only see one of the FBI agents. We don't see the others.
yeah, yeah.
So one of them could have been black.
Could have been, but I'm not gonna put my money that that's what this the creator did.
But yeah, that is one distasteful, but they also like mentioning how it's illegal for citizens to own guns in Japan.
Yeah, yeah, they keep nailing that down, and they also made a they also were really going on. They kind of had a weak portrayal of I mean, this would have been come out at the time when Bush was president, right? Or at least he would have just been done being president. When
Yeah,
does this
that
come out?
2008.
2008. Oh damn, really? 2008?
Yeah,
Thought I was a little older.
no, it's quite new. Came out
Okay,
2008. But yeah,
so at least
they do
Bush was
give.
still fresh on the mind.
But you got to think the volume the manga probably gave like came out a year, maybe 2 years before the anime.
Mm, yeah,
So Bush was president, and
yeah, yeah.
it's a they make him a bitch.
Which he is.
He's not that big of a bitch. They did him. Even for George Bush standards, they did him a little dirty in this in Death Note.
I feel like I I honestly feel like they they made us look they made the US look too a little bit too weak, but and they didn't show enough of America's natural fucking like demagogish like bloodthirst, and the fact that we would probably not stop until we got that thing for ourselves.
And use it.
Yeah. Like goddamn, especially Bush era. Like fuck.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a weapon of mass
Like,
destruction.
is it? Yeah, because Bush is definitely like a little fucking pussy, but I mean, Dick, Dick Cheney's the one pulling strings.
Yeah, yeah.
And he,
So I'm
he'd
saying
be
they
if
did
Dick.
do him dirty
That's
in
what I want.
this.
What if Dick Cheney had had the death
Oh
note?
no. Dick Cheney's the last person that needs a death note.
I think he probably already has one.
Oh shit. But yeah. Uh so that's Death Note.
That's Death Note. You know what else is a good anime?
What?
Seinfeld.
Nice,
It came up on Netflix.
nice. So yeah, we can wrap this up now.
Yeah.
The next TooNami night we will be talking about the live action Death Note. I wanted to record this before we watched it, so I not to solely the Death Note experience for you just yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be just as mad. But yes,
Wait.
if you've been listening this long, thank you. Please like or comment dislike on the video and share it around. Put it on Reddit. Uh, Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And go check out some more of our content. We have Let's Plays, we have Loose Butthole Reviews, where we review movies and TV shows, and we have the Relax Talk podcast, and we will have this podcast coming out for the future.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And this will be. Do you have a sign off that you want to do, Spooge?
If there's a what if scenario, if you're a fan of Death Note, if there's a what if scenario that you'd like to see, hey, you know what? In any show, whatever your favorite show, what would be a good what if? Put it in the fucking comments there.
All right. And this will be a bye bye.
Oi.